Welcome back to Mass Appeal. It's the holiday season, so many couples and families, they face the dilemma. Where do you spend the day? Do you go to your parents' house? Do you go to your in-laws, Christmas Day, Christmas Eve? So many big decisions.
Lots of questions. So joining us with tips on how to navigate the holiday stress-free is clinical psychologist Dr. Tim Hope from Amherst. Dr. Tim Hope, always nice to have you here.
Morning.
I'm sure this is a topic that many couples and families kind of have to contend with. Where do we go? When do we go there? And how do we fit it all in?
Right, and it always creates stress, and it doesn't necessarily need to create stress. We're already stressed enough as it is in the holidays. So the idea is, let's come up with something that's going to be fair and it's going to be reasonable, but there are some tips for thinking about fair and reasonable in ways that you might not necessarily think of right off the bat.
Well, Dr. Hope, your first tip is let the relationship vote, but for most relationships, people at home, it's two people. So that often, I would imagine, creates a tie.
Right, so that's what we often get stuck in, is in either or, either my place or your place. So the idea is, well, give the relationship a vote too. What would be best for our relationship as a couple? And have that be one of the votes, and that is the tiebreaker.
Aha, so what would be best for our relationship?
That's right.
So consider that, not just you as individuals, but as a couple. Also consider the context. So, you know, fairness is a great principle, but you have to think kind of the big picture.
Sure, so if you happen to live nearby your partner's family, and you see your partner's family a lot, but you're farther away from your family, that's part of the context. That should be part of the decision making.
And also it factors in, you know, where'd you go for Thanksgiving? What'd you do last Christmas? It's so difficult. It's like a Rubik's Cube this time of year to figure out all the things. So sometimes, and your next tip alludes to this, you have to get creative.
Right, and so think of that third way. There isn't an either or. Perhaps there is a third way. Perhaps you can meet up like my family does in the larger family on the Sunday before Christmas. Every year, Sunday before Christmas, we all get together, and there we have it. It's great. It gives everyone something to look forward to. It's a way that we can all still gather together, and then we have our individual traditions on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day.
Right, because it's hard when you're trying to cram in a lot of visitation on those 2 days. So you don't want to rush. You want to spend time. So have a designated day that every year you know that Sunday before Christmas is a holiday, so no one will make plans on that specific day.
Right.
So that makes perfect sense. Now, it can be tricky, I can imagine, when both families, so let's say, you know, I live in Massachusetts and my in-laws live in California and then my parents live in Florida. When you're traveling, it can be hard to balance.
It is really difficult to balance, and that is where you can get that pull. You can get the rituals that you have as your traditions. Your family wants you, their family wants you. And it's really important to talk. I always talk about communication, right? So communicate with your partner, communicate about the relationship, and then once you all have gotten to a consensus about what you want to do, communicate with your family. You want to communicate to your family, we love you, we respect you, we want to have our rituals, and this relationship is important. And so we want to convey the importance of relationship by telling you we've really given this a lot of thought, and this is what we think is going to be best.
You also zone in on a great point too. You need to be a unit. You know, the spousal unit needs to have an agreement before you go out to the parents, because if one person's just shooting from the hip and not talking with their spouse, that can create a lot of angst.
It can really create a lot of pulls and then hurt feelings and misunderstandings, and that's when people can really get upset.
I think it's so interesting too how we almost talk about stress more than we talk about the joys of the season, and we kind of find it to be the kind of the focal point, when isn't it really just about enjoying each other?
It is about getting together, celebrating our love of our families, celebrating the world that we live in, giving back to the world just like the world is giving to us, and conveying the importance of those relationships.
So I think we need to remember what this is really about and try to focus on the positive, and your tips are really helpful in helping us kind of navigate our way through the holiday season stress-free. And always remember that you don't have to get together on that specific day. You could make it another day so that you can enjoy your time together.
Be creative.
Dr. Hope, as always, great tips. Thanks so much for stopping by
And happy
today.
holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you.
And